Welcome to Mosaic. I'm your host, Susan Schulman-Pertnoy. Mosaic is Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County's weekly news magazine exploring the most critical issues facing Jews here and around the world. We'll be right back with Mosaic.
You are the book that lights the spark and the hand that passes the torch, the fuel that powers the change that betters the world across town, across oceans, the hand that soothes the spirit that survived the unthinkable. You are there in the darkest of times to strengthen our community.
Good Greek moving and storage. Your superhero movers.
More moving horror stories. Slick salesman makes you a great deal. Sleazy movers hold everything hostage until you pay a higher fee.
As a former police officer, I've heard all of the moving horror stories. But you can trust me and my pros, and we'll have you saying, Opa! Call Star Greek.
Good Greek moving and storage. Your superhero movers.
During this challenging time, stay active, informed, and connected with your Jewish community. Visit jewishpalmbeach.org/coronavirus to take advantage of a variety of videos, articles, activities, and online events for you and your loved ones. Explore ways to help others and access vital services to help you get through these challenging circumstances.
Morse Life Memory Care is making a difference in the lives of our residents with innovative programs that offer them a more rewarding future. Our goal is to give our residents more time. Time for programs that help cognition, for favorite foods in our open kitchen any time of day, for fun with new friends, and time for family, free from care and worry. Most importantly, for the compassion and dignity they deserve.
Joining us is Peter Eckstein, Director of our Federation's Israel Programming Center.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us, what is Israel's Program Center?
The Israel Program Center is Federation's project to bring Israel to the community. And what that means is we experience Israel when we go to Israel, but we can also experience Israel in our community. So what we do is we bring resources from Israel to Palm Beach County, and we bring them to Jewish community centers, to synagogues, to people who are not involved in the Jewish community ordinarily. We're bringing Israel here to to our area.
So Erez's Humans of Tel Aviv is one of your new initiatives, isn't it?
Yes, actually, yes. Erez we were very excited to bring the Humans of Tel Aviv project because it sort of encapsulates our philosophy, which is Israel is made up of the people who live there. We always read about Israel being a war zone. That's what we see on the news. But what the Humans of Tel Aviv project is it presents Israel as a place full of people just like here. And we want to show people that Israel it has its multicultural aspects, its diverse aspects, and it speaks to people here.
One of the places that you've been able to exhibit these photographs has been a middle school in the area.
Yes, we went to Coniston Middle School, and it was a wonderful experience.
It was a great experience. It was
let's
amazing.
discuss that. What happened?
So there was a room of 80 7th and 8th graders, and they were incredibly well behaved, which amazed me because 7th and 8th graders are 7th and 8th graders. And they were very polite, and they were engaged with what Erez was talking about the diversity of Israel, and they connected to it. And what was very exciting for me was that there was a girl there. She was a Muslim girl, and she saw some of those pictures, the picture behind you actually, as a Muslim woman, because that is her background.
A Muslim lady that actually holding the Quran.
Yes, a Muslim lady holding the Quran, and it's actually an Orthodox woman holding a Tanakh.
So how did you explain what this was to her, and what was her reaction?
When I heard her, it was like really amazing because she was, we were speaking about religion, and she didn't saw if it's like Judaism or Islam. And for me, just, emphasize the fact that, that in the bottom line, we have, maybe it's different religion, but we share common values. And it was beautiful in my eyes.
And what was exciting was all the kids had their own preconceptions of Israel from the news.
Exactly.
At the end, I asked her, what did you think of the program? And she said, it changed my mind about everything. It opened her eyes, which was it gives me chills just to think that we touched a person.
It shows you how successful your thought about your exhibit is going.
Exactly, but I think that the great thing that the Jewish Federation is actually doing, it's helping, to better inform and to better educate people about, about Jewish values, about Israel. And that means a lot to me, and I think for a lot of people, also in Israel and also in the States.
Do you want to talk about another picture? I think the one behind you, Peter, had a lot of reaction.
Oh, that's an Eritrean wedding.
Exactly.
An Eritrean wedding. So all the kids were looking at that picture, trying to figure out, where is that? Who are those people? They thought it was some type of festive event in the Dominican Republic, which was great because some of the kids are from the Dominican Republic. So they were connecting their own experience to something that is in Israel, which is the whole point, is that there's this cliche, Israel is real. What we're trying to do is make Israel real for the people in our community, which means it's all about the people.
I think that the fact that, they thought it was not in Israel, but this picture was taken in Israel, it gave them, the ability to think that, wow, Israel is very diverse.
Yes, exactly.
And for me, this is exactly what I was aiming for.
Yep, Israel's not two-dimensional, it's three-dimensional, and it really, and that program impacted that.
From your experience, do you think American Jews care about Israel?
Yes, in different ways. And we need to learn how they care about Israel and then reach them to engage them on their own terms. One size does not fit all. People who grew up and remember 1967 see Israel a certain way. People who grew up and remember 1948 see Israel a certain way. People who grew up and remember Israel in 1988 or 2001, they see Israel differently. They care about Israel, and we need to reach them on their own terms.
Where are you going to have these photographs displayed?
We will be showing them in synagogues, in Jewish community centers. We're hoping to do them in public spaces as well. We're in the process of planning all of that.
And Erez, do you travel throughout the country showing these photographs?
Yeah, exactly. It's been my pleasure, to bring Israel, to different Jewish communities, to bring it to different campuses. And I'm really privileged that I have the ability to show a different side of Israel. And I think the great thing about this project is that, it's pictures and stories, and it's not politics. And people can actually relate to that because it's a human story.
Thank you. We'll be right back after this brief message. Coming up, we'll talk about how food is the universal bridge builder.
You are the book that lights the spark and the hand that passes the torch, the fuel that powers the change that betters the world, across town, across oceans, the hand that soothes the spirit that survived the unthinkable. You are there in the darkest of times to strengthen our community.
What's the best kept secret in new cars? It's that you can get a brand new Mini at Braman Mini Palm Beach for under $21,000, which includes free maintenance for 3 years. No kidding. Plus, free membership to the Fun Mini Club of South Florida for road trips and autocross, and even more with club room social events. Mini is more than just driving. It's about having fun with the Braman Mini community. Learn about Braman Mini at BramanMini.com. Minis for under $21,000, free maintenance, Mini Club, and Club Braman benefits. It's a no-brainer. Braman Mini is the right choice.
We'd like to extend a special thanks to the dedicated professionals at Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, its partner agencies, and synagogues. Together, these committed individuals are caring for those in need and keeping people connected to Jewish life. wishing these incredible professionals and you a happy, healthy Passover.
Good Greek moving and storage. Your superhero movers.
For moving horror stories.
Hey, I heard you're looking for a mover. I got a deal for you.
Staring at his mover out there!
As a former police officer, I've heard all of the moving horror stories. But you can trust me and my pros, and we'll have you saying,
Opa!
call Star Greek.
Good Greek moving and storage. Your superhero movers.
Your restaurant, Zahav, was awarded the 2019 James Beard Foundation Outstanding Restaurant of the Year, which basically means you're the best restaurant in the country. And you personally, in 2017, won the James Beard Foundation Award for Best Chef. And you've also won numerous accolades and awards throughout the year. With all this fame and fortune, how do you stay grounded and focused?
Well, the beautiful thing about restaurants is that it doesn't really matter. I mean, the awards are incredibly validating. They are a dream come true. I mean, they're never in a million years did we think that we would be capable of this. Having back-to-back years of an Israeli restaurant winning national awards is like my life's work, right? But you know, every single day at 5 p.m. the curtain goes up and we have to prove ourselves again to another 250 people that are waiting to have their expectations exceeded. So it's very easy to stay humble, and I think you're only sort of as good as the last dish that you make, and you know, we have a lot of them to make, so it's quite easy.
Mike, why do you think people are so emotionally tied to food?
Well, I think that we all share everybody loves food, right? And I think that there's such a visceral experience when you eat food. The people that you're with, whether it's like holidays, whether it's like in the street, you know, at 2 a.m., and you have this sort of taste memory that will stay with you for the rest of your life. And Jews in particular, I mean, our holidays revolve around food.
True.
Right? So
yes.
I think it's, and not just like major holidays, but I mean, Shabbat, like every Friday and Saturday, you know, and if you're kosher, you know, a discussion about the way that you live your life is around food. So I think that it would be sort of hard to avoid it, but food gives us such pleasure and it tells such a huge story, and it's a way to reconnect. And my relationship to my grandmother wouldn't be what it was without food.
Our Jewish Federation recently conducted a community-wide study to find out where we are and where we're going as a Jewish community. And one of the questions was, how do we connect young Jews to their Judaism? And we found out that they connect in different ways, mostly culturally, through food, wine, music. Are you surprised at that?
I'm not surprised at that. I mean, I think that we're constantly looking at ways to reconnect, and I think it's very easy. I mean, we sort of joked about this before, but like, my parents forcing me to go to synagogue for my bar mitzvah years every single Saturday wasn't like a reason for me to be super excited about Judaism or identity. Being forced to move to Israel at 15, I wasn't like, rah, 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 let's talk about like Sephardic pastries that promote like medieval Spanish Jewry, right? But the older you get, you look for reasons, and I think food is a very easy one. It really doesn't matter where you are in your observance, doesn't matter where you are politically, it is something that we can rally behind.
Do you see food as a connector for you in your life for Judaism?
100%, of course. And we've been able to advocate for Judaism and for Israel without having to fight, without having to hate, without having to argue or disagree. So, of course. And people come into the restaurant, and whether they're like upset with, I don't know, whether they're rejecting their religion, you know, as a way to rebel against their parents, whether they're like totally not interested, whether politically they don't feel comfortable, you know, they love what it is that we do, and that's kind of all that I want.
That's a beautiful thing. What a result.
Yes.
You've also written 2 cookbooks. We have one here now.
Yes.
And you wrote your first one called Zahav.
Yes.
That's supposedly an oral history. It's described as an oral history.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure. So it is about it's Israeli food through this restaurant in eastern Pennsylvania, but it is talks about Israeli history, talks about my family's personal history, and the history of the opening of the restaurant. And it's pretty comprehensive, but it's very personal. I'm Israeli. I grew up in the States, so reconnecting with Israel is something that I kind of do in real time. And I think that part of our success is the ability to be this sort of conduit between Israel and the West, and to help articulate and help describe, and also not like alienate, and sort of invite people in to this journey that we're taking.
Do you have any favorite recipes that you'd like to tell us about?
Well,
that are in the books?
Yeah, I've got a couple of them. So in Zahav, my mom's coffee braised brisket is a favorite of mine. We make this tabbouleh, but we make it actually with quinoa, which is very good, and English peas. It's quite delicious. And, my grandmother's boricos are in there too. They take a little bit of time, but they're worth it.
I'm sure they are.
Yeah.
So with all that you do, what's next for Michael Solomonov?
Well, I would like just like a weekend off, like a little vacation. We have a lot of really exciting things. The fact of the matter is we've got like 16 restaurants, 350 employees.
Wow.
Zahav is approaching its 12th year, and we're the busiest we've ever been. So I think it's really about reflecting and turning in and figuring out how to reinvent, which is what we kind of have to do.
To stay relevant.
To stay relevant and to stay invigorated.
How about expanding? And coming to Palm Beach anytime soon?
I actually love it. I do love South Florida, and I think that in many ways South Florida gets a bad rap, and it's cold and rainy right now in Philadelphia, and today was like 78 degrees, and I just went on a run here, so maybe Palm Beach.
Well, you've heard it first right here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Deep divides are a regular part of today's discourse. The Jewish community is no exception, especially on topics related to Israel. We're sitting down with renowned journalist David Horovitz, founding editor of the Times of Israel and former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post.
Picture living aboard a luxury cruise ship with first-class service and the best amenities 24/7. Life at Tradition is just like a cruise ship that doesn't leave port. With more fabulous food, more fun with friends and family, a more fulfilling future, more care when you need it, and more freedom when you don't. Our elegant assisted living residences provide so much more, so you can make the most of every day. Rent an apartment at Morse Life and see how much more life can be.
During this challenging time, stay active, informed, and connected with your Jewish community. Visit jewishpalmbeach.org/coronavirus to take advantage of a variety of videos, articles, activities, and online events for you and your loved ones. Explore ways to help others and access vital services to help you get through these challenging circumstances.
What's the best kept secret in new cars? It's that you can get a brand new Mini at Bremen Mini Palm Beach for under $21,000, which includes free maintenance for 3 years. No kidding. Plus, free membership to the Fun Mini Club of South Florida for road trips and autocross, and even more with club room social events. Mini is more than just driving. It's about having fun with the Bremen Mini community. Learn about Bremen Mini at bremenmini.com. Minis for under $21,000, free maintenance, Mini Club, and Club Bremen benefits. It's a no-brainer. Bremen Mini is the right choice.
We're back with David Horovitz talking about Israel and journalism, and we're going to take a moment to talk about politics. What's happening in Israel? 3 national elections within less than a year, correct?
Yeah.
How debilitating is the political uncertainty to the functioning of the country?
That's a good question, and it's, you'd like to, well, it's all terrible, but it's, it's not as terrible as you might think. So there's a transitional government, and there are limitations on what they can do, but, the country functions for sure. There are committees that don't sit, there are budgetary allocations that are not agreed. It's not something to joke about, but, we do function. The flippant way of looking at this is it's kind of, we've had an overabundance of democracy. And it's interesting, for me, talking about in Florida is interesting because here, every vote matters in Florida all the time, right? So Israel is kind of like, a big Florida. All the votes matter all the time. We have pure proportional representation in Israel, no constituency system. So nationwide, once your party clears the sort of minimum threshold, if you get more than 3.25% of the votes nationwide, you get your seats in parliament. The result has been always, throughout Israeli history, multi-party coalitions and many, many parties in the parliament, in the Knesset. I mean, you have 320 million people here and you seem to manage with 2 parties.
Right.
And we have 9 million people and 30 parties running for election and 10 of them get seats. And the last 2 elections, nobody could get a majority because various parties were playing very hard to get for better and poorer reasons. I think the big picture really is that we're a country in a very challenging region with no term limits for our prime minister. So here you know that the president, like him, don't like him, 1 term, 2 terms, that's all there is. Netanyahu's been in power for a decade. He's kept the country safe and people respect him for that.
That's critical.
Which is really the biggest of all the big deals. But internally he's either loved or loathed. He's a divisive figure. He has a real challenge this time because the party running against him has 3 former army chiefs at its helm, including the head of the party, a guy called Benny Gantz. And what's happening is either that Israel is kind of incrementally pulling away from Netanyahu, and it's taking 3 elections to do it, or he will somehow bounce back. He's facing corruption charges, very, very complicated cases that you'd be very foolish to try and prejudge. So that mix, it's incredibly fraught, and we're very, very divided. And when you do all the arithmetic, the way it has played out for 2 elections in a row, he didn't quite get re-elected, but the other guys couldn't get him out either. So then the next question would be, well, why will it change next time, which is going to be in March? So I can't answer it, so it's good that you didn't ask me. I don't know how it's going to play out, but it doesn't take much of a shift to kind of remake the arithmetic. So after March, you'll know. Yeah.
How did Boris Johnson's win in the UK affect Israel?
Well, first of all, as an ex-Brit, it's a really big deal. I think Jeremy Corbyn, the opposition leader, is an anti-Semite, and that's not something I would say easily.
Well, you think that played into the election?
I think it did. I think he's an obsessive critic of Israel. I think you can be a critic of Israel, but when the only country that you focus your anger and criticism on is Israel, then that's extending into darker places. So I don't think British people didn't vote no to Corbyn because they were worried about anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, but it was in the mix. And I'll just tell you, it was really interesting. On the morning after the election, Sky News, which is a big cable channel, satellite channel in Britain, the presenter was asking the chairman of the defeated Labour Party. And she's not Jewish, and most of the viewers, the anti-Semitism thing was not something that you would have thought would have been front and centre.
Right.
She says to him, didn't voters just think, well, this guy's an anti-Semite, and therefore they didn't want to trust him with the security of the country? Now that was such an interesting way of looking at it. So it wasn't the election issue. The election issue was Brexit, leaving Europe and so on. But Corbyn's positions and his character and that anti-Semitism thing were in the mix. And Anglo Jewry, they were telling the pollsters if he gets elected, 10, 20, 30, 40% in one poll, I think, were talking about, thinking about leaving. It's a really big deal. And Corbyn lost by a lot.
Yes.
So I think there was a lot of relief among Anglo Jews. In Israel, we watched it closely. I think he would probably have instituted an arms embargo on Israel. I think he would have much reduced the warmth of the ties. So that hasn't happened. And in fact, just now, Prince Charles has announced he's going to make his first official visit to Israel in a month's time. So things. Sometimes good things happen.
Yes,
that's
I see
what
that.
It was.
Speaking about that, do you think Trump's administration is more popular in Israel than prior administrations?
That's a good question. I can't give you an empirical answer. I think Israelis judge American presidents, on very often on a kind of emotional level. If you look at, first of all, the relationship is very good. The Israel-US relationship, it's very good and it's very important, I would say, in both directions. You know, we're on the front line against the bad guys we're just the little Satan in Israel. You are the big Satan for Iran, for example.
Right.
So the more we can gather intelligence and take the measures necessary to keep Israel safe, you know, by extension and in partnership, we're certainly helping the United States. So it's a vital relationship. The ups and downs with presidents have been, like I say, kind of on an emotional level. And if you think about it, you know, Israelis love Bill Clinton. You know, if he converted to Judaism and moved to Israel, we'd elect him to any job in the land. And we liked the second George Bush, again, because of the kind of a sense of warmth. And much less Obama and George Bush Sr., because they didn't emote that kind of gut affection for Israel. So Trump is seen in Israel as somebody instinctively warm to Israel. Most Israelis are very happy that he recognized Jerusalem as our capital. Israelis were worried, and are worried, I think, about his talk of pulling out of Syria, and that's been adjusted a bit. You know, the more isolationist an American administration, especially when it comes to the Middle East, the more worried we are. We think that's bad for America. Certainly bad for us. The less America is present, the more Russia is present.
Right, it's
and,
scary.
You know, and they're pals with our enemies, with the Iranians and the Syrians and so on. So those are some of the parameters, I think.
We have to end, so I want to end on a positive note. What makes you hopeful about the future of the global Jewish community?
Okay, so, well, first of all, because miraculously we survive against all odds and uniquely. From an Israeli perspective, there's masses of stuff to be optimistic about. I mean, we talked a lot about the challenges. Israel is an incredible source of inspiration, including in things like, you know, tech and so on. We're the most innovative country in the region for sure, and one of the most in the world. Partly because of the army experience. People go to university later in Israel. They have no fear of failure. They can innovate. All those things have fueled this transition from sort of Jaffa oranges to tech. So you're pioneering in medicine and in water desalination. We taught Africa drip irrigation. There's an Israeli innovation now to make water out of hot air. I kid you not, right? It's an incredible thing. But the most encouraging thing, and I hope all your viewers will, you know, all our viewers will agree with this. You look at the younger generation, and you know we're producing fine people in the Jewish community around the world, I'm sure, and in Israel, I know. You know, I look at the younger generation, and these are fine, capable, motivated people. So I think that's a pretty big source of optimism.
Great way to end. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Mosaic is brought to you by these generous sponsors and underwriters. Learn how you can support Mosaic by visiting jewishpalmbeach.org/mosaic.